So here we are on hills, and I'm trying to ace the Panzerjäger 1, and it's 3 versus 2, an M2 Light who hasn't been spotted yet, Su-18 who hasn't been spotted yet. We've got an H-35, a Panzer 38T, and myself. I've done 700, almost 800 damage. Spot the Su-18 and get derped. Okay, I was a one-hit kill anyway, but alright, so now we know where the M2 Light is, now we know where the Su-18 is. Su-18 is a one-hit kill, M2 Light is AFK! And we've got this H-35 moving in on the M2 Light. Come on, Irish, switch the views, switch the views. There we go. So that's the third shot the H-35 has taken, and bounce, okay. Bounce, okay. Now H-35. No, what are you doing? You know where the Su-18 is. No. Why are you moving out of cover? No, you missed by a mile, and now you're getting shot by the Su-18. What are you doing? This is a win. You missed again by a country, and now the M2 Light is woken up. Oh wow. Oh, okay. And you missed again. An AFK M2 Light. And you just got killed. AFK, M2 Light, RT, you knew where he was, one hit kill. And, no, yeah. Ah, okay. So this needs a facepalm. Yeah, M2 Light was AFK, RT was a one hit kill, you knew where RT was, you moved out of cover. And then the M2 Light woke up and killed you all. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 face palms. Hi folks, and welcome to the Ace Tanker for the Stridsvagen M38, a Tier 2 Swedish medium tank, as we continue up the medium lines, although I've already covered a Swedish Tier 2 medium tank on the channel, which was the L60, the Tier 2 Premium gift tank. Brought that video to you recently. So how does the M38, the Stridsvagen M38, differ as an alternative Tier 2 medium tank? Well, not by much. It doesn't change by much, because this, even though in game it's called the Stridsvagen M38, is actually an L60. The production name for this tank by Landsverk was the L60S. So this is one of the 6 variations of L60 that were built. In fact, it was the first variation, or one of the first variations of the L60 built. So the L60 went into production in 1935 because Ireland basically asked Sweden to build them tanks. And then we went back, we got the prototype L60. Then we went back a year later for the second one. There's a story behind that I found out since making the L60 video, but I'll cover that in future. And Sweden went on to continue to develop the L60. One of the designs was the L60S. Now this was a L60 that was requested by the Swedish Army, and they requested a couple of changes over the prototype L60. The first one was that the armor needed to be thicker, so the original L60, or the premium tank in game, has 13mm of armor all round, and this tank has 15mm of armor all round, so they increased the armor by 2mm all round. But the major change between this and the L60 is the gun. So the L60S, or the Stridsvagen M38, came with a 37mm, which is the final gun on the tank. That was the main request by the Swedish Army. Now, if you check Wargaming's blurb or Wargaming's information about this tank, it'll tell you that it's a variation of the L60, which is correct, and 216 of them were built, which is incorrect, because there were 216 L60s and L60 variations built in total, but this is the Stridsvagen M38, one variation, and there were only 16 of these tanks ever built, so they did remain in service up till about 1960, but they were pretty much underpowered and undergunned by the time they were being built, because this came into production, as the name suggests, in Model 38, 1938. So as soon as World War II began, the tank was very quickly under-armored and undergunned. But it stayed in service, as I say, up till about 1960 before being replaced by later tanks. And really, that's the only history, really the only history for the tank. So what's it like in-game? Well, the tank, like most Swedish tanks, has very good gun depression at 10 degrees, so that is a big positive for the tank. The gun is also very punchy. It's a 37mm, as I mentioned. It's got 55mm of penetration, which is very good for a Tier 2. The alpha damage is 40, so that's pretty standard for a Tier 2. The rate of fire, not great, and the DPM isn't very good, but the gun is fairly accurate, and it's got very good stats when shooting on the move and shooting while turning the turret. So the gun handling is okay on the tank. So they're about the strengths, and as I say, about the only real negatives for the tank are the armor. No armor, it's only got 15mm all round, and the DPM is kind of low for a Tier 2, but I think the good gun handling makes up for the DPM because you're more likely to land your shots. So anyway, we are here on Himmelsdorf, wrong button. Got the player names up here, change that to tank names. And yeah, we're on Himmelsdorf, and it's an all Tier 2 game, and I'm just trying to get into position. So what I basically want to do is I want to use my gun depression. I want to use my snapshots. I want to try and play the tank to its strengths. You can see we're getting up to 45 kilometers along here, although it is favorable ground, and you know, it's a little bit sluggish, but only when you compare it to higher tier tanks. When you're comparing it to Tier 2s, it's quite fine. And oh look, there's my little brother. So the L60 is the prototype of this tank. As I say, this is the L60S, built 2 years, well, it would have been 3 years, designed and built 3 years after, and you can see, oh, snapshot's not working. And finally I got fed up. I got fed up of taking snapshots, so I decided just to sit here, not reverse down, not take snapshots, and oh, the gun is letting me down. So yeah, accuracy not great either, but we're putting in shots. We've managed to do a lot of damage to that L60, put in a couple of shots into that L35, or LTVZ35, and we're using our gun depression, so we're not exposing much of the tank. And there's another Swedish Tier 2, the no-name tank, and I know that he's not the best, he hasn't got the best accuracy. So once again, we're taking snapshots, and you can see that, you know, I'm persevering with the snapshots, and we're getting some shots in. We finally got our first kill, and you know, the gun, good accuracy, or not good accuracy, but okay accuracy, and the alpha damage and penetration good enough to take out the LTVZ35 eventually. So 2 tanks down here on the corner against an M2, and I figure I can deal with this T7 combat car. So we're just going to swing around and put some shots into him. So, okay, there he is, he's back. Oh, he's looking at me, so he puts 1 shot in, but he only does 8 damage, and we're able to take another shot and take him out. And in the meantime, the 2 tanks on the corner are dead. So, okay, I'm still on, I've got a lot of health. I could have been a little bit more aggressive here, I think. I've got a lot of health compared to the M2, but I would need to roll a 100% high roll, high RNG roll to kill this M2. No, actually, even a 100% high RNG roll wouldn't kill the M2. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to have to put 2 shots into him. A 100% high roll would have been 48 damage, and he was on 50 health. So I dirt my first shot, take him out with the second shot. And in the meantime, we've got 5 tanks on the 1, 2, 3 lines. So I'm deciding that I'm going to move around, going to flank these tanks down in the south. Another LTVZ35 comes out, and so 2 tanks on the 9-0 line on the hill, and all of a sudden we've just lost a tank on the 2 line. So get another shot in. As you can see, we're not exposing much of our tank, we're conserving our hit points, and H35 is up here, and our tanks on the 1-2 lines, they've got a lot of health. We've just lost another one, but we take out the H35 and we're going to flank, and I'm thinking all is good, but then our medium 1 dies. And I'm figuring I have to help the PZ1 and the H35. So, gonna take out this LTVZ. Yep, 35, get 1 shot in. Get another shot in. Kill shot. And I derp it. But I do take him out. And In the time it took me to kill the LT, all of a sudden I'm on my own, and this was a big mistake. So there were 5 tanks over here when I decided to make my move, but by the time I got down to the corner, all 5 tanks had died. So, yeah, sucks to be me. Okay, so maybe the 2 remaining tanks on our team who are on the hill and sniping, yeah, then maybe they can win the game, so we're going to speed it up to ×4 because the LTVZ just decides to take a lot of blind shots, wastes a lot of time up here, and then our, what was it, a Panzer II moves into the cap, and meanwhile 2 enemy tanks are capping, and rather than going back, maybe the LTVZ might have made it back, he might not, he decides to drive to cap, and unfortunately you can see what's about to happen, because this is a loss. Panzer II dealing with the UC2, our LTVZ misses, and the enemy team cap out. So, yeah, a defeat, but it was the first ace in the tank. So there we go. I'll always bring the first ace in the tank to you, regardless of the result, or regardless of what type of game it is, whether it's a lucky game or whether it's an incredibly difficult game. But we picked up Top Gun, which meant we picked up an heroic medal, which meant we got the ace tanker even on a defeat. We finished up with 500 base XP. However, because of that heroic victory, we ended up with 794 XP overall. So 794 XP, more than anyone on the winning team as well. But yeah, I mean, the damage was okay, got 6 kills, got my Top Gun out of it, and unfortunate to get a loss. Had plenty of support, and I just got very aggressive, decided to flank. If I were to replay the game today, I'd still make the same decision. We had plenty of tanks on the 1, 2, 3 lines. I went to flank the enemy, flanked successfully, got a couple of kills, and by the time it took me to kill 1 enemy tank, basically we'd lost 4 tanks on the 1, 2, 3 line. So yeah, I'd still make that decision today. But yeah, I'm happy with the XP, happy with the kills, happy with the damage. I didn't like the tank enough. It's pretty much a standard tier 2, and the only thing that sets the Strv M38 apart from any of the other tier 2s in the game is that gun depression. The penetration's nice, but nothing special. The damage is nice, the alpha damage is nice, but nothing special. The armor is pathetic, but the gun depression, incredibly good. So if you can get to use that gun depression, then it's a very good tank, but unfortunately it's a tier 2, so you don't get to use the gun depression very often on tier 2 maps, and I sold the tank as a result. It wasn't my first game of the day, I was actually playing it for the ace. I didn't spend that long in the tank. It did take me quite a few games to pick up the ace, if I remember correctly. I easily ground through the tank, and I was playing it simply to pick up the ace, but finished up with 14,000 credits, which is pretty standard for a tier 2. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say about the tank. It's an L60 variant. It's not the L60, it's the L60S, and you know, I think it's quite a nice little tank, but it's a tier 2, so not worth keeping. Anyhow, I hope you guys had better luck in your tier 2s, and we're going to continue up the Swedish line in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.